I invited Vic on my show. He did not come on my show, which is probably a good thing for him. And however, upon talking to him, I was able to link him up with a law firm down in Texas, and I was also able to start a GoFundMe. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to archive anything and everything from important, verifiable people. The anonymous stories, not super helpful. Stuff from Jamie Marchi, Monica Rial, Kaylin Saucedo, any of the companies involved, Funimation, Rooster Teeth, their parent companies, Sony, Otter TV, anything these people might say, other cast members, other voice actors, things like that. People who are identifiable and have ties to Vic in some way and are doing this, they're the ripest targets. If they have ties to any of the people named here, friends of Marchi, friends of Rial, husbands of them, if they're making public statements about this, archive it. Send an email to ricadalaw@gmail.com. Subject, Vic info. This will help me sort all of the stuff coming in very easily and separate it from other stuff that I get at this email address, okay? So send it there. I will create a repository. I will back up files. They will be protected. If you send me archive links, those aren't really fakeable, and they're really, really valuable because people will decide to try and delete stuff, of course. Of course, they're going to try and delete stuff. Go ahead and send me anything that you've got that looks like that. Please limit the amount of anonymous stuff unless it's really important or otherwise credible. Be your own judge. Send me archive links. If you can put them into groups and subjects or give me minor descriptions, will be very helpful. And then if a law firm takes this case, if Vic goes forward, I will make sure this info gets to that firm as fast as possible, and I will keep funneling them any information that's necessary. The next thing I need you to do, go ahead and hit like, share, subscribe, okay? I will be following any case that does develop. If there's a case announced, you can come here. I will read the documents as they drop. I will explain to you the law that's going on. I will attempt to discern the strategy. If there's something weird in the strategy, I will talk to you about how this process works. I've done it in several other cases. I've been following diversity in comics. I've been following the quartering. I've followed the Maddox lawsuit. There are other cases as well. This is kind of what I do on my channel if you're not familiar. So like and subscribe and share this to the community so that they know there's one place that it will go and it will get to another lawyer from a lawyer, right? I will use my personal reputation and contacts to make sure that they understand that the information is coming in. It's been looked at. It's been gone through somewhat, and it will help them in their research. All right, guys, that's what I got for you today. There's a lot of information. I hope this helps you understand how you attack something like this in this manner. And then I hope it motivates you to somewhat, if you care about the situation, start doing that archiving, start sending me that information, and help out any prospective legal team that might take this on, because this would be a daunting thing to take on. Trust me. Trust me. Starting on January 16th, with the release of Dragon Ball Super Broly, Vic Mignogna, there was a concurrent campaign, we'll call it, a concurrent campaign to remove Vic from his voice acting gigs at Funimation and Rooster Teeth, both based here in Texas. The campaign started on Twitter from someone named Kaylin Saucedo. It was accompanied by the hashtag #KickVic. That seemed to really kick off the whole event. And over the next couple weeks, Vic Mignogna would be routinely, how do we call this? Live roasted on Twitter. He would be accused of several acts of impropriety at conventions, including the very egregious act of hugging and maybe kissing on the cheek someone without their consent. So many people who know Vic or have interacted with him know that he does tend to be very close. He tends to display affection to people around him. So there is some credibility to the idea that he maybe hugged someone without their consent if they came up to his table to get an autograph or something like that. Over the next couple weeks, things sort of spiraled on and on, along with the popularity of the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, and eventually he was confronted with what I would call as a lawyer, a more credible accusation. The Twitter accusations I refer to them as not credible, one, because they're very hard to verify. Twitter has this veil of anonymity about it. Anybody can name themselves anything on Twitter. They can use dummy email addresses to create those accounts, and it's very hard to verify anything anyone says. So the first sort of more credible accusation came from, as best I can tell, a person by the name of Jamie Markey. Jamie Markey is a voice actress who also works on Funimation properties, and Jamie accused Vic of some inappropriate behavior in the lobby of Funimation Studios, namely that he pulled on her hair, pulled her close, and whispered something sexual into her ear, although she was unable to recall what that was. And then she said she subsequently removed him from her person with some sort of comment, although she couldn't recall what that was either. The next day, I believe, Monica Rial, who is the voice of Bulma, came out with an accusation, but she did not name what the accusation was. She merely said that something happened to her as well involving Vic Mignogna, and she was not clear on any specific details. Over the next couple weeks, it would come out that she had a story alarmingly similar to Jamie Markey's story. Again, it involved playing with hair, tugging hair, pulling her close, whispering something into her ear. Finally, there was another accusation that I would call a credible accusation from a cosplayer named Jesse Pridemore. Jesse Pridemore had a very similar story that accompanied a story of alleged rape by Todd Haberkorn. Now, that allegation of rape by Todd Haberkorn has since been denied. Todd Haberkorn is also pursuing legal action against Jesse Pridemore. That is a story I can maybe get to at a later point or tomorrow. But in that accusation against Todd Haberkorn, she used that to transition to an accusation against Vic Mignogna. Again, that he grabbed her hair, tugged it, pulled her close, and whispered something into her ear. So, once those accusations came out, he was dropped from Funimation Studios officially. They tweeted about it early February. I'm not sure of the exact date, but in their tweet, they did mention that he was following an investigation. They had cut all ties with Vic Mignogna, and when they did cut all ties with Vic Mignogna, they said that they do not support harassment of any kind. So Funimation made a statement about that. Rooster Teeth cut ties with Vic Mignogna. However, their statement was very bare bones, just stating that they would no longer be working with him. You have Samantha Inu Hart, who is another voice actress who allegedly participated in the investigation against Vic Mignogna. And you have Anime News Network and IO9, which are two online publications which have run stories about Vic Mignogna that misrepresented situations and failed to represent his entire answers to them in the course of, in the case of IO9. IO9 reached out to Vic to verify some of the events. He responded to all of their questions, and they reproduced about 10% of what he said. Dragonfist 900 says, "Hey, Nick, is it okay if I send you a pic for Ty?" Of course. Ty, for those of you in the audience here, Ty Beard is the lawyer that Vic hired. His law firm is Beard, Harris, Bullock, and Hughes. They're based out of Tyler, and they are a pretty high-powered corporate litigation firm. The people on the other side of this sort of event are in constant denial that they're real or that they actually do litigation, but I can assure you they do and are very, very good at it. So that'll be interesting. The way a lawsuit works, actually, I can talk very specifically about how a defamation lawsuit works in Texas. Okay, so Texas has this very interesting law called the Texas Defamation Mitigation Act. And the Texas Defamation Mitigation Act requires a company, or requires someone who is accusing someone else of defamation to send out letters demanding retractions to try and mitigate the defamation that's already occurred. So, for example, we'll use a hypothetical. Ron Toye, Monica Rial's husband, or not husband, I keep saying that. Monica Rial's fiance, Ron Toye. He has been on a barrage against Vic Mignogna on Twitter for the past several days, despite certain YouTube lawyers urging him quite a bit to get a lawyer and to shut his mouth because it could go very badly for him. But Ron Toye, for example, has been talking quite a bit on Twitter. So what you would do with a Texas Defamation Mitigation Act compliance is to send Ron a letter and probably copy him via email as a courtesy so that he would get it right away. And on this letter, it'll say something like, you are requested forcefully to immediately delete all defamatory statements that you have made about someone and to make no further statements about it. It's almost like what's called a cease and desist letter, but it goes ahead and demands retractions of previous statements as well. Once you send out this letter, if someone like Ron Toye were to refuse to comply with the letter and Vic were to prevail in a civil action against him, you qualify for something called exemplary damages. Exemplary damages says, okay, the defamation cost this much. Now we're going to multiply the amount that you owe by 2 or 3 times and tack that on to the lawsuit. So now you have exemplary damages, and it just skyrockets the amount that could be won on a judgment. So if there's anybody who happens to have gotten a Texas Defamation Mitigation Act letter, if you got one, you might want to retract those statements. It'd be a good idea to not have those statements out there as soon as possible. But that's just me, and I'm not giving you legal advice at all. With that being said, once those letters go out, another type of letter will also go out. And this is sort of the, if you imagine NASA, right? When a rocket's about to launch, you got T-minus 1 minute, T-minus 10 seconds. This is your 10-second countdown to lawsuit letter. It's called a spoliation of evidence letter. A spoliation of evidence letter would suggest that you cannot delete any evidence. If you spoil or delete any evidence that's out there that may be requested on discovery, the court is permitted to make a negative inference about whatever is deleted. So this is something that became really, really important with electronic discovery, where you're going through emails, you're going through tweets, you're going through private messages and text messages, because it's so easy to remove that. However, forensic digital evidence teams that are employed by large law firms are able to find out where things are deleted through all sorts of different methods, but usually just by being very thorough and careful. When they find those deleted things, they tend to make a very, very big deal about it. So if anybody out there receives one of those spoliation of evidence letters, you can imagine that you're about to be sued probably within days. Just in case anybody were to happen to receive any of those in the very near future. I think that might be on the horizon. But so you can imagine that as the rocket takeoff countdown, and once those letters go out, we'll see probably legal action very soon. If I had to guess, we'll see actual lawsuits being filed in the next week to week and a half against the people who are involved. And as soon as those drop, I will be reading all of them live on stream. We'll be going through, laughing along with it, and just seeing how this whole thing unfolds. I think it'll be very, very interesting. But so the next part, how the lawsuit actually starts once that spoliation letter goes out, is the next step would be receiving a summons and complaint. The summons and complaint will tell you that you are being sued. It will lay out the list of factual allegations made by a party, in this case, for example, Vic Mignogna, against another potential party. We can use a different hypothetical, and we could say it's Funimation Studios. So for Funimation Studios, they would allege the facts of the situation. They would talk about any potential investigation. They would talk about any communications that Vic received from Funimation Studios, and then they would go ahead and they would lay out how they believe those actions constitute different civil torts. I already mentioned defamation. There's another category of defamation called business defamation. Business defamation involves impugning someone within their course of work. So if they said, for example, that Vic's activity at a convention, which would arguably be within the course of his conduct, was inappropriate, then they would say that was business defamation because that's hampering his specific business. The elements of defamation and business defamation are quite different, and the remedies are very, very different as well. The other one would be, of course, something related to potentially a wrongful termination, although that seems unlikely. And finally, if they can find evidence of it, collusion or conspiracy. Not like the pretend collusion of Trump and the Russians. I say pretend collusion as a joke just because they haven't produced any evidence, but there is quite a bit of evidence of collusion or conspiracy amongst voice actors who are employed by Funimation Studios. So with that, they can use what's already out there in the existing network to make what's called a prima facie case, or a case on the face of the evidence of collusion or conspiracy. That collusion or conspiracy would allow them to add Funimation to whatever other civil actions are out there for the voice actors or anyone that they've been speaking to. Once they get that complaint, Funimation will have 21 days to answer that complaint. And they'll have to go through and either admit or deny, paragraph by paragraph, everything that's alleged. At that point, we move into a phase called discovery. And once that summons and complaint happens, Vic's lawyers will basically have 90 days to start demanding all sorts of communications between Funimation and whoever they want. They'll be able to demand their internal communications. And in Texas, almost nothing is protected from that discovery. So they won't be able to sit there and say, well, this has some sensitive information in it. They'll have to prove why that information is sensitive, and Vic's lawyers will probably get to see that information anyway and make an argument about whether or not it should be public. Discovery in Texas is actually public information. They can't seal it. So anything that Funimation or their voice actors have communicated, maybe about fans or about people that they don't like or other people in the industry or other companies, all that becomes very, very public. And I know there are several people on the YouTube scenes who would love to spread that information around. So we'll kind of see how that goes as well. But I think that'll be very, very interesting. Once that discovery phase kicks off, the other thing that can happen is, Funimation will have a chance to respond with motions to dismiss and things like that. Those motions, if you win them, they're a one-shot win. But in the meanwhile, as those motions are running, discovery will be occurring, including the opportunity to depose anybody who's out there. Depositions are where a lawyer gets to ask questions to someone for 3 to 4 hours, and they have to answer every single question. They don't get to say no. They don't get to say, I don't want to answer. I mean, they can say that all they want, but at the end of the day, they still have to answer under oath, and if they don't, they're held in contempt of court and could be fined or could be actually jailed, which would be really embarrassing. So that's what happens. And then from there, it's the full process of a lawsuit. It really could take up to a year to 2 years to fully resolve this for Vic Mignogna. So there's a lot of stuff that can happen in the meanwhile. But does anybody have any questions about that process or what that looks like? Yes, sir. In Vic's case, no lawsuit has actually been served upon the other parties to my knowledge. So right now we're at the stage of those letters. Those letters will probably be going out in the next day or two. Today's Friday, so probably early next week, if I had to guess. It all depends. The difference in this case versus a normal case is how this is happening in real time so fast. Vic has a 20-year career in anime, And in the course of 3 weeks, that was just shattered completely by these tweets. And then they didn't stop. They kept going and are attempting to get him further removed from further conventions and have further ill will amongst the public for him. So with that, a law firm has to respond very quickly. The statute of limitations on defamation is actually, I believe, 2 years in Texas. Maybe it's 1 year, but in any case, a normal defamation case, the defamation occurs, the damage is done, and the person then consults an attorney at some point when they realize the fallout. For Vic's situation, since it was happening in real time, he had to get an attorney, they had to get up to speed with everything that was going on, and then get a lawsuit out. Frankly, to have a lawsuit go out within a couple weeks of hiring a firm would be really, really abnormal. But I assume they're trying because they've got to stop what's happening if they want to salvage his career and reputation. So that's why I think we'll be seeing some action on it in the next week or so. And for all I know, I mean, stuff could have happened yesterday. I was on a plane all day, so who knows? But yeah, so that's entirely possible. Let me just suggest that I have it on very reliable authority that Chris Sabat is using the looming threat of being fired and blacklisted from the industry to try and persuade the outcome of legal matters in this case.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
As absolutely stupid as it would be to do that, as stupid as it would be to tell someone that their decisions in regards to this case have the possible repercussions of kicking them out of the industry, as stupid as it would be for someone with the authority to make hiring and firing decisions to say that, let me just suggest on good authority, I have it on good authority that he has done exactly that. This guy thinks that he is out of litigation. If I have anything to say about it, there's that tell. Watch out! I scratched my head. So if I have anything to say about it, this guy is going right into the list specifically as hard and raw as possible. Because that, you know what, like. You can pull your shady stuff all day, but you start trying to influence litigation by threatening people's jobs, and you need to be put down.
Oh yeah, like that
in Minecraft.
Like, but yeah, you could see Vic wanted to talk about Sabat. I don't doubt he knows that Sabat's doing this. Like you said, he burped out Sabat's name and then stopped himself. Amazing.
If Vic were me, if I were Vic, if I were in his shoes, there wouldn't have ever been an attempt to mend fences. There wouldn't have ever been an apology for people being offended. There would have been profanity. There would have been threats, and those threats would have been followed through immediately with brutal precision. Monica Rial would have made one statement on Twitter and then gotten so many cease and desist letters shoved down her stupid mouth that she wouldn't be able to speak even if she wanted to. Mars Girl would be deported. I don't care where to. Maybe she could join Han Leia teaching at that school in Japan. Did you notice Han Leia deleted her big Kick Vic post that predated Mars Girls? Did you see that?
I actually didn't hear about that.
Oh yeah, the one with the 8,000 likes and 5,000 retweets. Maybe it's because Han Leia's information got out. Maybe it's because maybe it's because some people found out exactly who Han Leia was, and she thinks that maybe deleting her account undoes the ridiculous amount of damage her stupid slander over being a degenerate Fujoshi. Maybe she thinks that is going to preserve her. Oh, sweet pumpkin. I hope you like defamation laws in Japan. I think they go really well there. I hear the Japanese have a nice legal system of you get lots of freedom of speech and you get to impugn someone's honor. That's something that they put up with. But yeah.
It was
We'll see.
Yeah, he had some like I said, he's got no poker face. So when I said some things, his immediate facial expressions were pretty interesting. I told him about early on in AO's tenure on Twitter. We're kind of on a Twitter break right now.
Taking a nice union mandated Twitter break over at AO.
Well, because Renfamous, apparently the reason we kept losing accounts, Renfamous is fucking circle of guys desperate to fuck her kept mass reporting us and then taking snapshots of it and adding her like, look what we did. May we have some coochie, ma'am? Apparently we're getting wrapped up in Comicsgate and we never really got involved with Comicsgate too much.
Get some Gatorade or something. Quench that thirst. It's not happening. It's not happening. And I don't think you actually want it. Like if you objectively step back for a second and look at the whole picture there, you'll change your mind pretty quick. I think. And like, man, on Twitter, he'll talk that good shit. Despite the fact this is a dude that got cucked so hard, he hooked up with a girl, and got her a job at A&N, and then she became a dude. And because he can't be alone, he now has to get pegged in the ass every night. Whoa. Okay, that's gross.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know.
Well,
you broke my NPC script.
The choice he had was either I can be single again, or now I have to be gay. And he was so afraid of being alone. This big tough guy, like to talk that good shit. So afraid of being alone. Like, well, guess I'm taking it up the ass now. That's why we don't even make fun of him as much as we used to, because that is so sad. That is just so sad. That's where your life goes. It's like you're so afraid to be alone. Your girlfriend is like this narcissistic sociopath. Like, well, I really want to get attention and back pat, so I'm going to be a boy now. I'm going to start taking HRTs. Oh, and by the way, what I'm saying, they have said this in public. This isn't like stuff we had to dig up. This is stuff they've said. It's like, oh, by the way, when we make love now, I'm going to be the one wearing a strap on and you're going to be receiving, because if I receive, that's going to remind me too much of being a woman and I can't have that. So you're going to have to be the receiver all the time from now on. Okay. And that's his life. That's Zach Murchie's life.
That's not life.
Like, you can't even make fun. What are you going to say that life hasn't? What are you going to do to Zach Murchie life hasn't already done?
Wait a minute. Do they support this guy? Because like homosexuality is not a choice. Right? So is he in homoface? Like what is he appropriating G culture? Like what? You can't just choose to be gay, right? Like I'm not even trying to be joking here. That's a thing I've heard over and over, is that's your inherent quality. So if you're dating a woman who then transitions to being a man, okay, I accept that. But that you necessarily can't make yourself gay.
He says he's always been bisexual, despite never showing any inclinations of this, and until his girlfriend decided to transition.
All right,
but it's again, it's just, that's why we don't make fun of him as much, because it's just what can you say? What can you say?
I don't want to say anything else about that guy. Let's transition ourselves. Let's take some ANNGH and start talking about what's been going on here. So on Twitter.
What more reliable outlet for your information than Anime News Network, the people who advertised a cult propaganda film until people pointed out it was a cult propaganda film, and then they took the ads down.
And the only cult propaganda film you should be watching are my streams. Because I don't know if you know this, Cody, but I have been appointed cult leader by an Anime News Network nonsense. Bobda? Do you know who this guy is?
ANN has no place talking shit after they were, not only did their founder have a false rape accusation against them, I guess they didn't hashtag believe victims then, but not only that, they were buddies with an actual sexual predator.
Yeah.
What the fuck? You people have no place to talk.
So,
And he was like licensing all these titty shows because what Funimation does is they license any ecchi show, you know, the fan service shows. Can I
talk about that real quick?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, here's the thing that I don't think Funimation is considering right now. Let's bring some reality to what happens in a lawsuit, in a major lawsuit against Funimation with Vic Mignogna. You're in Texas, Funimation. That means that Texas residents are going to be very interested in what's going on in their state, especially if they have like an enterprising corporate law firm representing a person, and that corporate law firm might find it in their best interest to weaponize the values of Texas against a studio that puts out animations of very, very young girls with very, very lewd outfits and sells them to children. Now, listen to anime fans before you jump on me for this. Don't think of it the way you think of it. Think of it the way a 39-year-old Texas man in Denton County will think of anime, who's never seen one before, when they get that news story from Fox News exposing the dangers of selling over-sexualized minor characters in mainstream television shows that air on Netflix, that air on Toonami, that air on Cartoon Network. Imagine what happens in the public eye when the mild degeneracy of non-hentai anime hits mainstream Bible Belt America in a lawsuit. Does Funimation have any idea? Does Funimation even for a moment think about what will happen when Vic Mignogna's lawyers make a montage and buy an ad and just show the good people of Texas a bunch of 14-year-old anime characters in titty costumes running around?
Yeah.
Or a bunch of little schoolgirls with upskirt panty shots just gratuitously blasted off. Have they thought? No, the answer is no. Of course the answer is no, because it said, have they thought? And I'm referencing Funimation. Of course the answer is no. They haven't thought about the 35-year-old soccer mom who's driving her 11-year-old to school, and he mentions he watched DxD High School or whatever.
Oh, God.
And on YouTube, he saw clips of it, and he asks her to look it up on YouTube, on Netflix or something like that, and she goes and researches it. Oh my God! Do these people honestly want to put mainstream America and trust me, if Beard, Harris, Bullock, and Hughes think it would benefit their client to burn Funimation's reputation amongst the good people of Texas to dirt, they will absolutely do it. And it won't be hard. Anime is ignored largely by the majority of flyover America because they just don't pay attention to them cartoons, right?
Yeah.
But anime has Japanese values, not American values. They may try and dub them in here and there, but it is wildly misogynistic. It is wildly over-sexualized, and I know it's a joke. Again, don't think of it the way you think of it. Think of it the way a mom with a 13-year-old boy is going to think of it, or a mom or a dad in Texas who, if someone touched his precious little girl, he would literally shotgun them down and drag them behind his oversized truck. Imagine what he's going to think when he sees little girls being objectified on cartoons that his little girl's boyfriend is watching. I don't think it'll go the way they think it will.